Hello and welcome to assignment number 7, the exploded Axon diagrams with SketchUp and Photoshop. The first thing I'm going to do is start our project folder. So I'm going to navigate to my own personal library and pull over my template folder. I'm just going to call it exploded Axon. Alright. The next thing I'm going to do is download the two resource files, the Axon base SKP and the Axon template PSD, which is the Photoshop file. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up and show in Finder. Alright, so I'm just going to grab this one and pull it over to SketchUp. And pull this one to my PSD folder. Alright. So now what I want to do is navigate to my SKP, and I'll just close these down too as I do that. Alright, so I open up my SKP and I have a scene that's kind of been saved for you. Now what I want to do is to actually tilt this a little bit. And I'm going to get it to a view so that just to make sure that I can kind of see everything. I'm going to turn the trees on so you can make sure, but I'm just going to tilt this a little bit. I'm also going to change my camera to perspective for this. So I'm just going to kind of get this view here. Looks alright to me. Now, if we go back to the assignment, we'll notice that we're just going to show everything on: lawn and mulch, walkway and stone pavers, site furnishing, shrubs, grasses, and perennials and trees. So let's do the everything on. So what I want to do is click everything on. Take a second to process. Okay, so there goes my everything on view. And I believe the camera angle was set for you, but that's how in the future, if you want to just set it yourself, you would do that. So from this scene, that's my everything. Everything's fitting, so that's great. I'm gonna kind of click out of here. Let me do that again. Actually, get that camera to be the exact angle. I think that's right. All right, that looks like it's it. So what I want to do now is go File, and my scene is already set for me. So my lines are off, and my shadows should be on as well, and my textures are on. So I'm just gonna go File and export 2D graphic, and I'm going to navigate to my desktop into my project folder and go into in this case I'm going to go into my site imagery. I'm just going to call this base information. And inside site imagery, I'm just going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Axon images. And I'm going to call this first one everything. Alright. Now the next one, we go back to the assignment. The next one we want to focus on is just the lawn and mulch. So I'm going to come back here to my SketchUp. And these things might take a little time to kick out, just be patient. Okay, so now I want to go to my windows and pull up my layers. And I believe I just want to focus on my lawn and mulch area, so I'm going to turn everything else off, and this will also help the speed of the model, so that'll be nice. So let me turn that off. Let it crunch a little bit. Great, so let me skip the lawn and mulch and go to everything else and just turn everything else off. Great. So now that I have that, I'm just going to go actually create, I'm just going to export this. If you were bringing this in a layout, you would create a scene, but in this case we're going to use Photoshop, so I'm just going to export the 2D graphic. And I'm going to call this one lawn and mulch. It'll kick out. While it's doing that, let's go back and see what the next one is. Walkway and stone pavers. Alright, so now I want to turn off this and that. And I want to turn on my walkway and stone pavers, which are my paving layers, basically. And File, Export 2D Graphic. And this is just stone pavers and walkway. That'll kick out. And the next one we want site furnishings. So I'll turn these off. And there are my site furnishing layers. I'll turn those on. And File, Export 2D Graphic. Call that site furnishings. Okay. The next layer, shrubs, grasses, and perennials. So let me turn these off. So grasses are back on. And then shrubs and perennials are back on. Okay. File, export 2D graphic. And this is going to be perennials. Alright, and the last one I believe is just going to be trees, and that might take a little bit to crunch. Turn those off. Help speed the model up. Great, and then we'll turn on our trees finally. And those populate. And again, this could be done in layout, depending on the speed of your computer and the complexity of your model. I found that for this model it was really slow on my computer, so we're going to do this in Photoshop, but it can also be done in layout. But export 2D graphic, and I'm going to call this one trees when it allows me to. Trees. Alright, so now that that's done, I actually no longer need SketchUp, so I'm just going to close that. And I don't even need to save it. Okay, great. So now I'm just going to right click and quit SketchUp just to optimize the computer for Photoshop. So now I'm going to go into my folder again and go into Photoshop and open up that Axon template PSD. right. So you'll see here that you have a 24 by 36 layout, and I already have a text or title block information for you. So we'll come in here and just double click and modify this information. So for name, obviously put your name. I'm gonna put, and today is I'll come over here and I'll call this just exploded Axon, and that'll be fine for that. Alright, so that's the first part. So now what we want to do is bring in our images, but we want to prep the images first by giving them also a property line so that it'll give us a reference point as we stack them above one another. So I'm going to go into the file, I'm going to file open, and I'm going to navigate to the file that we saved those exported pieces to, so the Axon images. And the first line I want to get, I believe, is the lawn and mulch. Let's pull that up. Okay. And I'm doing this, the lawn and mulch, because it gives me the nice outline that we want for the site, the property line. So what I want to do is create a layer and go to my line tool and make sure that your dashes are selected here. So my dash line style, and I'm using kind of this magenta color so it'll pop, we can actually see it, and I'm on 4 points for that. So, and I'm just going to begin to trace this thing. So kind of come here, there. And I'm going to take a little bit of playing with, but you should be able to trace this outline. And just Control Z if you make an error on your line. You could also zoom in. That might be helpful. And kind of come out here like that. That. Oops. This comes across kind of right there. We'll come up. Zoom out a little bit. Just come here. Kind of close that. And I'm off a little bit, so I'm just going to adjust mine. I'm actually going to Control T that a little bit and stretch this side out a little bit. And stretch this down a little bit there. Okay, so you can modify it after the fact too. Try to trace it straight. So that's good for me. So now good. So now I have a nice kind of property line, and I want to convey that to all the other pieces that we exported. So I'm going to actually copy that, or just use your marquee tool and copy. And I'm going to open the other ones up. So that was lawn and mulch. I'm going to open up everything. Shrubs, grasses, site furnishing, stone pavers, and trees. And they'll all pop up. As they pop up, I'm just going to do a Control-Shift-V and paste or edit. Let's try that again. Let me go back here. And let me copy that. And here, Control-Shift-V. Nothing. Okay, let's try that again. So what I want to do then instead is, let me rasterize this. And let me copy it now and see if I can Control-Shift-V. There we go. So I just rasterized it to copy it, and now I'm bringing it over. And I'm going to do that for each of these, Control-Shift-V. So let me pop in. Okay. And so what this is going to do is give us a nice frame of reference as we stack them. We have that continuous line, so we can always have that shape and understand how they're and better understand how these pieces are related. Okay. Control D that. So I'm gonna make these into groups too. Double click here, okay. And just group those and call this one lawn mulch. And same thing here. This is going to be everything, and let's continue the process just to be systematic about it. And this is shrubs and grasses. Alright, and come here and make this into a group, and this is site furnishing, and come over here. Walkways, and this last one, just to keep that clean, and call this trees. Alright, so now I'm going to start bringing these pieces over to my Axon. So first I'm going to go to my everything, and I'm just going to drag this over. So let me go in order that we have these up. Oops. Well, the order should be that though. So everything, I'm just going to copy that over. Oops. Copy that over to my template. I'm just holding my Alt key and my Move tool to do that. So I bring this over. Okay, that's going to give me my first one. And I'm going to go back then to lawn and just do the same thing. Bring that in. There goes my lawn. And then I'm going to go to shrubs and grasses and do the same thing. Boom. Site furnishings. Boom. Stone pavers. Walkway. Boom. And then trees. And bring that over the same way. Alright, so now I'm just going to close these out because I no longer need those and don't even need to save it. Just so we're working cleanly. Don't need all those open. Save. Okay, so here we are. So now I have these, and they look about the right size, but I want to make them a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to highlight, well, actually let me take them and pull them out of the title block as well. Oh, I'm still in there. Pull these outside of that. There we go. No, still not there. There we go. And I'm going to put these in their own group again to organize that even better. I'm going to call these my axons. And I'll pull that above that now. Okay. And then I want to pull the white all on the other side. I'm going to call this white background. Alright, so now we're nice and organized. And now what I want to do is save that. Alright, so for the axons, I want to make them a little bit big. Well, let's get them stacked appropriately first. So I'm going to go to my axons and I'll start with the everything and kind of get it where I want it to be. And on mulch. And they should be the same size, so if you have smart guides on, they'll line up. I'll zoom in a little bit. We'll do the shrubs next. And site furnishing. And pavers. Zoom in on that. It looks good. Tree copy. Okay, just to make sure that the spacing is even and they're aligned. Okay, so that all looks good now. So now they're all aligned. I'm turning that white background back on so I can see them, and I'm just going to select those and kind of move them around together now. And I can make those a little bit bigger. So I'm going to just Control T, and I'm just going to expand that a little bit just to make them a little bit bigger so we can see them better. And I'll bring it here. And there we go. So now what is left is to label. That is effectively the Axon. Get my zoom out. Oh, my bad. Okay, so now we have our Axons kind of put in place. Now we need to label these things and make it easier to understand what's going on with the information. So I'm just going to shift this over a little bit. Just holding shift and dragging it on my Axons layer. So I'm just pulling over a little bit to the left. What I want to do now is turn off the white so I can get that frame for each one of these. Alright, so now what I want to do is create a text box, and I'm just going to put this one to the top corner of this. We might adjust this in a moment, but just for now, kind of keep it there. And what I've done is I've gone through and I've created a breakdown of the information that I need. So it should be here. And I recommend doing this as well, just so you don't have to figure everything out. You can do all your spell checks and stuff on a Word document. So the first one's going to be tree, so I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to come back to Photoshop and just Control V that in. And I believe my font's 22, and I'm just going to bold that top feature and enter. And then I'm just going to copy that down, zoom in a little bit too. I'm just going to copy that down to the next one. And I believe this one is going to be site furnishing. So again, back here, site furnishings, back to Photoshop, and Control V, and these are going to be bolded. Great. And I'll just keep that kind of going. Let's go to the next one. And it's going to be the grasses, shrubs, and perennials. So I'm going to grab that, copy, come back to Photoshop, double click, Control V again, and just turn the bold off. Okay, and I'll turn this next one off, keep it going, my frame of reference. There we go. And this one's going to be my lawn. Cover. Oops. And that one's going to be. Oops. Ground cover, and take that away. Site furnishing. And I'm missing one. It looks like that walkway. So I'm going to turn that back on. Let me turn this top one off. And let me just grab this last one and kind of come back up to that. And that's going to be the final walkway one. Okay. So copy, back to Photoshop. Yeah. And then just take the bold away from that. Alright. Okay, so let's turn everything back on now. Alright, so it looks pretty good. Now they're floating a little bit, they seem a little high to me, so I'm actually gonna group these and just put this as text and just shift that down a little bit. And it looks better to me. Okay. Maybe a little bit higher than that. Yeah, it looks better. Now I want to just do some quick break lines here too. I'm use the same methodology just to help it read a little bit better. So let me turn off the white background, turn that off. And what I'll do is just use the line tool. I'll have to create a layer for this as well. And we'll play with this after we build it, but I'm holding shift to make sure it's going to be a straight line. And let's say it kind of comes out to here. 2 is a good point. It's continuous line. So it's on continuous. It's on 2 points, and it's a black stroke. Alright, so once I have that first one, I'm just going to copy those things down. Just turn that on now, turn that off. So just come down, touching the bottom of all these. There. And then the next one is going to be there. And then one more. Okay, so let me turn everything else back on again. It's looking pretty good. Now what I want to do is merge these to kind of create one shape. Control E for that. It's still a shape, so that's good. What I want to do is, so that way allows you to change the stroke of it. But what I want to do is just kind of blur this edge here. So I'm going to create a layer mask, and I'm going to go to my gradient tool here and select it, and it should be on the black and white. And I'm just going to click a point here, maybe right there, and kind of drag out to where I want it to fade to. And as you do that, you see that you get this kind of nice fade effect that begins to happen. Let me take it off. Now we can kind of see that nice kind of blur that begins to happen. I think that's even too high, so I'm gonna come back to like right there. Just come off of it. Yeah, maybe one more. Start right there and come this way. Alright. That looks good to me. So now we have this kind of nice break, and it kind of blurs away so it's not so prominent, and we can easily see our Axon. And that's all you need to do. When you're done with that, you want to do a file. Save as, create a JPEG, and I'm going to put this here into finished pieces, and I'll call this presentation boards, and I've created one already. I'm just going to save over it, exploded Axon, replace. Then you upload this to Blackboard with your self-assessment rubric, and let this thing load and save. Obviously too, if you wanted to add more information to this, you could. This is a quick way to demonstrate how to use SketchUp to begin to create these axons. You can isolate certain pieces. You can create drop lines to make it a little bit more easy to read. But this break line does give you a good way of quickly kind of conveying an exploded axon to demonstrate the pieces of information in a clear fashion. So if you have any questions, you can leave comments or send me an email or come see me in studio. Bye.